Today I continue my series discussing every movie enshrined in the Rotten Tomatoes Hall of Shame, the 40 movies in film history that received a 0% score from all critics. The stinker of a film I want to shine a spotlight on today is 2016's The Disappointments Room. Even if you are the most avid horror watcher, someone that watches every horror movie that comes to theaters, there's still a very good chance you have not heard of this movie. And there's a good reason for that. You see, The Disappointments Room was filmed all the way back in 2014. It was scheduled to be released that same year. However, also in 2014, the film's production company, Relativity Media, filed for bankruptcy, and as a result, the release of The Disappointments Room was put on an indefinite hiatus. Since I love going on tangents in these videos, let me give you a little bit of background about Relativity Media. Relativity Media certainly doesn't have the instant name recognition of a Disney or a Warner Brothers, but it still is a very large studio that produced many films you would know, including Mamma Mia, Step Brothers, The Social Network, Bridesmaids, 21 Jump Street, and half of the Fast and Furious movies. The company was founded in 2003 by Ryan Kavanaugh, who you may know as the founder of Triller Fight Club, the company that brought us the very first Jake Paul fights. As if paying Jake Paul millions of dollars wasn't bad enough, you may also know Kavanaugh as the man who sued popular YouTuber Ethan Klein of H3H3 Productions for defamation, in part due to Ethan starting a website called www.doesryankavanaughlooklikeharveyweinstein.com. This is a website where you can not only look at side-by-side photos of Weinstein and Kavanaugh, but also read all the articles detailing Kavanaugh's alleged Ponzi scheme, him allegedly lying under oath, his alleged unpaid wages to a babysitter, and Kavanaugh's alleged 2008 DUI. And yes, I purposely threw all those allegedlys in there. Unlike Ethan, I don't want to be sued by this Harvey Weinstein-looking fuckface. Anyways, despite being run by this modern-day Mother Teresa who only makes the best decisions in his personal life and in business, shockingly, Relativity Media somehow fell into some serious financial woes. It was estimated the company had between $500 million to $1 billion in liabilities, and the company's unpaid debts were paralyzing. As a result of the bankruptcy, to make back some money, the company had to sell the rights to dozens of finished films to other studios. They sold a movie called Love the Coopers to CBS Films, they sold The Bronze to Sony, Solace to Lionsgate, Jane Got a Gun to Weinstein Company, ironic, and they sold Before I Wake to Netflix. And yet, even though all these movies were being sold left and right to any studio that would buy them, for some mysterious reason, Relativity Media was unable to find anyone willing to take The Disappointments Room off their hands. After the fire sale, the studio restructured and restabilized itself with a series of management moves, including adding Kevin Spacey to a senior management role. Another great decision that definitely did not later backfire. In 2016, with Relativity Media out of bankruptcy and back on somewhat stable ground, The Disappointments Room could yet again be released theatrically a full 2 years after filming finished. And so, The Disappointments Room was released to theaters that September. In its opening weekend, The Disappointments Room played in 1,500 theaters and grossed only $1.4 million, finishing 17th at the box office. In the second week, the film, still playing in those 1,500 theaters, grossed just $300,000, dropping to 24th place. In its third week, The Disappointments Room went from playing in 1,554 theaters to 36 theaters, a drop of 97.4%. This massive decline set a world record for the highest percentage of theaters dropping a film in its third week, surpassing the 97.2 by the infamous bomb Gigli, or Gigli. Gigli? The movie with Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez. The Disappointments Room was truly a historic flop of a film. Now, if you're wondering, why did this movie even go to theaters in the first place? One explanation is the fact that The Disappointments Room starred Kate Beckinsale, who of course is a household name, famous for her roles in critically acclaimed blockbuster films such as Van Helsing, the Total Recall remake, Underworld Awakening, Underworld Rise of the Lycans, Underworld Blood Wars, and who could forget everyone's favorite, Republicans Get in My Vagina. Apart from having Beckinsale in front of the camera, Disappointments Room also had director DJ Caruso behind it. Caruso is no celebrity director, but he did carve out a solid career in the early 2000s, directing Taking Lives in 2004, Disturbia in 2007, and Eagle Eye in 2008. These three movies didn't receive overly positive reviews from critics, but they each performed well at the box office. Eagle Eye and Disturbia made a combined $200 million in their theatrical runs. Despite subpar reviews, it's clear why studios kept letting Caruso direct movies. So, in 2011, during the era where every single young adult novel that existed got its own $50 million theatrical adaptation, Caruso was tapped to direct a terrible adaptation of I Am Number 4. And after that, Caruso's career took a strange turn. You see, in 2011, Caruso directed a film called Inside. No, not that Inside. And no, not this Inside. 2011's Inside was a co-production between Intel and Toshiba. Yes, you heard that right. This movie wasn't produced by Sony or Blumhouse or Universal, but rather the companies responsible for your laptop and your fridge. This unusually produced movie also wasn't released in a usual way. Inside was split up in chunks and released via Twitter and Facebook. It was presented as an interactive story, and audiences were meant to use their Intel or Toshiba devices to help save the main character in real time. And yeah, sure, it's not as weird as, say, Pizza Hut and Domino's coming together to produce a Pizza Monster movie, but still, Inside was a very interesting career choice for Caruso. After directing 3 straight movies with Rotten Tomatoes scores under 35%, and a movie that was meant to be watched on your thermostat, it really only was fitting Caruso's next project would be a movie with a 0% critic score. I know we've gotten pretty far into the video without actually talking about the movie itself, and I promise I'll actually start talking about it soon, but before we begin the discussion of the film, now is as good a time as any to discuss the elephant in the room. And that is the half-assed title of The Disappointments Room. That title belongs in the bad horror title Mount Rushmore, alongside The Last Exorcism Part 2, The Bye-Bye Man, and Haunting in Connecticut, Ghosts of Georgia. A horror movie's title, no matter how dumb or schlocky, should at the very least clearly convey what the story is about. The Nun is about a nun. The Visit is about a visit. The Disappointments Room is just a nonsense phrase. Seriously, please, right now, before I later explain, pause the video and comment down below what you think the movie is about based on those 3 words. I would just absolutely love to read your guesses. Alright, so on to the movie. The Disappointments Room story is a simple one. This is your classic haunted house movie where a family moves from the hustle and bustle of the city to a creepy old Victorian house in the middle of nowhere, hoping for a fresh start. Immediately after the family moves in, Kate Beckinsale, who plays the mother, starts to fix up the home. As she's working, she finds photos of the former residents along with a secret room. Perplexed by the existence of the room, Kate spends the next few minutes of the movie trying to find a way in. At one point, she even finds a box full of keys. Kate tries every single one in the box on the door, and not a single key works. Though, just before she gives up, she very conveniently reaches up and finds a key that just happened to be sitting above the door this whole time. Once Kate's character gets inside the room that we'll probably later learn is full of disappointments, the door closes behind her and she gets trapped inside. While inside, she sees old ghosts and young ghosts and blue ghosts and new ghosts. Kate is trapped in the room past sunset, and when she finally escapes, she goes downstairs to yell at her husband for not checking on her. However, he reveals she was only in there for 10 minutes. And you know, to be honest, as much as I'm gonna crap on this movie, I have to give the movie props here. This detail was actually really meta, considering the fact that this 90-minute movie also feels like it's 19 hours long. After that scene, the spooky shenanigans begin to mildly ramp up. Kate has dreams of ghosts, she sees a ghost dog, she walks around the house, the cowboy guy from the Hannah Montana movie shows up to vaguely flirt with her, and at around the halfway point of the movie, we finally learn what Disappointment's Room means. So again, please everyone get your guesses ready. Apparently, a Disappointment's Room is a room families would send their disappointments to live in, a place socialites would send their deformed or disabled children to hide them from society. Even after hearing it explained in the context of the movie and reading that sentence directly from the film's Wikipedia page, I still just despise that title. No wonder no one saw this movie with a vague, completely uninteresting title like that. They'd be fucking better off calling this movie Ghost House or The Spooky Room. As dumb as those are, at least they tell you some information. Anyways, after Kate learns the history of the house and the room, her character continues to unravel more and more. She sees ghost girls, she burns a painting, she stares out the window, and she repeatedly freaks out her husband and her son for the next 30 minutes of screen time. While most of this movie is generic, run-of-the-mill, uneventful, and honestly doesn't even have enough plot points that I can talk about, I will say that I do have a lot to say about the Disappointment's Room's ending. This ending is hilariously dumb. Towards the end of the movie, Kate has a That's So Raven vision and sees the home's former owner trying to kill his wife and daughter in bed. Kate's character decides she needs to stand up for the ghost girl, and so she grabs a hammer and attempts to kill the ghost man. However, as she's striking down on the bed, she realizes she was actually having another one of her wacky hallucinations, and in reality, she was really trying to hit her small son with a hammer. Since this is a terrible horror movie and logic simply can't exist, despite his wife trying to murder their son with a hammer, the husband doesn't call the cops and instead just has a casual chat with Kate where he promises to get her the help she needs. They pack the car and the happy family drives off into the sunset away from the ghost house. Now, I have about 35 issues with this ending, but for the sake of time, here are my main two. Number 1, why exactly does Kate think she can kill a ghost with a hammer? Ghosts are fucking translucent. It'll go right through them. Wouldn't she have learned this from her years fighting werewolves? I mean, even if her son wasn't there, beating a ghost to death was a terrible plan. My second issue, and probably more important than the logistics of bludgeoning a ghost to death, how exactly does this story have a happy ending? I mean, losing track of time and staring out windows is one thing, but almost killing your son with a weapon seems like pretty solid grounds for divorce. I don't know how the husband can simply shrug that one off and chalk it up to her being stressed by moving. I'm all for second chances, but aren't you a little worried Kate might have another bad day and try to turn your 5-year-old into ground meat? Overall, of all the 0% movies I've seen, Disappointment's Room's rating is the one that makes the most sense to me. Even horror movies with bad critic scores like Fantasy Island or Truth or Dare or Flatliners are entertaining enough that I can totally understand why some people would enjoy them. But with Disappointment's Room, I cannot fathom a person alive that liked this movie. I had to take 4 breaks while watching this. It was so mind-numbingly boring. I know it seems like I rushed through covering the actual movie, but there genuinely was so little I could even talk about. It was nothing but ghost dogs and ghost girls and ghost dudes. I had to spend most of this video talking about Jake Paul and Toshiba products just to fill time. This is absolutely one of the worst movies I have ever seen, and if it was possible, the Disappointment's Room actually deserves a score below 0%. Alright, that was the story of The Disappointments Room. In the comments below, please let me know what other 0% movie you'd like to hear me talk about next. My current shortlist right now is Scar, a 2007 torture porn abomination, Homecoming, a 2009 slasher I'm not entirely sure even exists on the internet anymore, or Dark Tide, a 2012 Halle Berry shark movie. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, Horror Flicks with Nick. Twice a week I post horror reviews, commentaries, and short recommendations for horror movies you should watch on Netflix and other streaming services. Thank you for watching my discussion of The Disappointments Room. I hope it didn't disappoint. And I also hope Harvey Weinstein's long-lost brother doesn't sue me.